Germantown. And if I've ever met you at a networking event, you know that I absolutely love talking about cannabis and have very much enjoyed cannabis for many years, but didn't understand fully why biochemically it made sense for me until fairly recently. Zen Leaf is one of 4 dispensaries in Maryland, I think I mentioned. We fall under the Verano family. So we are a vertically integrated cannabis operation. Each operation has to independently operate within state lines. So we're in 7 different locations, states, but each operation operates separately. So we have a grow facility, processing facility, and then dispensaries. Our dispensary sells products from all different grow and processing facilities, but we do have a relationship that's beneficial to Verano. I want to talk a little about the seed to sale process that the Maryland Commission operates. It's a highly regulated, as you can imagine, program. The state runs it from the seed until it leaves our dispensary into a patient's possession. They register patients, the providers, give out licenses for the growers and processors, and then they actually track the physical product throughout the entire process by time and by weight, so they know where a product is in transportation at any given moment. So it's a very complicated system. Technically, as you can imagine, if it goes down, it's quite problematic, but it has been wildly successful in the state of Maryland and is growing faster than we can really keep up with. So to become a patient, I treat, let me just be honest, I do treat for a little anxiety. I'm a patient myself, so I am a little nervous, but once I just start talking about cannabis, it usually goes away pretty quickly, as well as after consumption. So the process for a patient to enter the program is a 2-part kind of administrative process. You have to register with state. I can share. Let me see. Maybe this will help. Okay. Is my, can everyone see? Okay. All right. Oh, I do need to disclose that cannabis is still a federally illegal substance. There is no Department of Justice funding to enforce this at the moment. And 33 of our states have made marijuana medicinally legal. Okay. So for us as patients, you have to register with the state of Maryland. They maintain a HIPAA-protected database of all potential users of cannabis. Whether you're certified or not in the next step, the first step is to register. It's much like registering your vehicle to drive. It doesn't mean you can go out and drive the car, but it does mean that you have the potential. The second step in the process is to seek certification. We have a couple of certifying providers in our chamber, and I can connect you with them if you care to further investigate this as an option. But you do have to have a conversation with the provider to determine if what you're trying to treat would possibly be made beneficial by using medical cannabis. The third step is to, of course, access the medication within 102 of the dispensaries found in Maryland. The registration process is just a simple online process. It costs $50 for the application, and it takes about a 4-week turnaround time. After you receive this unique patient ID number, you're able to move through the system to seek provider certification. So Maryland has deemed about 6 board types to be eligible, so we use the term provider. It can be a nurse practitioner, medical doctor, dentist, podiatrist, but these providers have to also be registered with the state of Maryland. So Maryland has a relatively short list of qualifying conditions. Other states have lists 30+ conditions long. And what happened in Maryland is the program began and was so took off so quickly that they just halted the application process to add new conditions to the approval list. So what they did to kind of navigate that issue for many people, because there are many, many conditions that can be treated with cannabis that's not on the top of this list, they did give the discretion to the provider to have a consultation with a patient, a potential patient, and decide if cannabis is a beneficial option. So after you're registered and certified, registered with the state of Maryland and certified by a provider, you're able to walk into a dispensary and make some medication selection. And cannabis is very different than Western medicine. You don't leave your provider or doctor with a detailed list of what to take and when. It's very, the responsibility very much rests on the patient and then the people in the dispensary giving the advice. So per the state, you're allowed to purchase a certain amount, but you're not told what to purchase by anyone. That's very much on your own. And as you know, the data and research is kind of catching up with anecdotally what we understand to be beneficial. I like to just, there's so much misinformation out there about cannabis. But one thing that's been popular in the last year is CBD. And CBD oil in the form of anything at this point can be found in a 7-Eleven or Whole Foods. And this CBD is coming from hemp. And hemp and marijuana are cousins. They have almost all of the same compounds, and anything can be extracted from them if they go through a processing, through the processing facility. So what people don't understand is that CBD can come from marijuana, which is a plant better suited for human consumption versus the hemp plant, which is a very utilitarian plant by nature. It's best for clothing and topicals, fuel, and it's actually used, replanted to rejuvenate the soil. So it's a bioaccumulator. So hemp really pulls in a lot of things from the earth that we probably should not be putting in our body. Hemp also is not federally regulated or tested. So I think one of the biggest myths is that marijuana, no, that has THC. Well, hemp does as well. It has a lower level of THC, which is the psychoactive component in the marijuana plant, but it still does contain THC as well. CBD is found in both marijuana and hemp and can be extracted from either. So a lot of products that people are taking are CBD dominant, so they don't walk around, stoned all day. We can't do that. And so CBD allows for just kind of, a very calming effect on your mood, as well as physiologically can, work on nausea, inflammation throughout your body, and many, many, many more. So the cannabinoids speak to an endocannabinoid system that's found in our body and ready to receive the information that the plant has to offer. So it's a very complicated mix and balancing act of hormones. So if you've ever been a teenager or met a teenager, you know that one thing can trigger 10 others. It's not a one-to-one relationship. So when we introduce cannabis, we may have an increase in serotonin, a decrease in cortisol, and then we sleep better. And then from there, it just proliferates a cycle of better well-being. I think perhaps some people have heard of indica and sativa. This is some of the education I go into, but I really like to get to some of the consumption methods because I think with my role here, they send the mom, the 40-some-year-old mom out to try to change some perception in the community and to open some minds. And I think show and tell is kind of fun. So, so I wanted to just introduce the idea that cannabis is, it's not what we see on television and how it's been, just set culturally in our minds to stop us from opening the idea that it could be physically beneficial. So if there are any aches and pains, I just want to show you a topical. So when the marijuana plant is processed, we can take the compounds and turn it into many different things. So here's a topical. This is something that you would just rub onto either a sore area of, say, neck, if you have lower back pain, arthritis in your knees. And it's a little bit transdermal, meaning it can go into your bloodstream slightly, but for the most part, it just offers a local response. There are many more products within each category I'll talk about. But what we hear a lot about are edibles. So this meaning the compounds are processed through your digestive system versus your bloodstream, as it would if you were to put something into your lungs. So for those of us who can't quite get out of the medicine cabinet, this is cannabis right here. It comes in a pill bottle that's, child safe and difficult to open for everyone, including children. And then just looks like a regular pill that you would take in the morning. And this is what some people are more comfortable with calling their medicine. And that's okay. It's a great way to microdose. So if you're having some aches and pains or trouble sleeping, digestively is a great way to stay asleep through the night if you take in cannabis. And then the pill form is a very easy way to know exactly what dosage you're getting at one time. If you've ever been to Vegas, maybe you've seen some of these. These are gummies. And it's another, this may or may not have THC. They're CBD dominant gummies. So when you think about gummies in any stories you've heard, it might just be something that, your neighbor might take in the morning. They're tasty as well. We also have powders that you can mix into tea. We have drinks. So these are all examples of digestively consuming cannabis. This is very popular. It's a tincture. You would open the bottle and drop it under your tongue, and then, of course, swallow it down into your digestive system, but a little bit seeps in faster as well. So all of the products I've shown you would come out of a processing facility. And before we get to that point is the cultivating facility. And this is where just your traditional, straight out of soil and water comes this beautiful little thing that we can turn into many different products. And so some people still choose to use the raw flower as their choice of medication. Once combusted, the compounds are able to interact with our body, so it's inhaled, quickly goes into the bloodstream, and you have an effect that lasts for not a very long time, but is very fast. So people who have panic attacks might opt to take something within their lungs so that it reacts very quickly and lets the panic attack ease, and then might follow with some CBD to keep a calm effect all day. I think that's about it for my show and tell piece. I know I rushed through the actual process, but if anyone has any questions or just wants to continue the conversation, I welcome it from both sides. I'm curious, can we have a private conversation, and I don't quite get this yet. And every conversation I have just helps me have the next one with the next person. So if there are any questions, I would love to take them, and I would love to.
Awesome. Thank you, Maria, for sharing. That was super educational. Yeah, if anyone has questions, please feel free to ask away. I see Hope raising her hand.
Hello, everybody, and good morning, Maria. Thank you so much, Maria. This is a terrific presentation. I knew nothing about cannabis, and I learned a lot. It was very complete, and we hope, Laura, that we will be able to see if you can send us the presentation. Is it possible that we can read it again? That was really, really good, really educational. My question was, I'm totally new in this area. Are there any side effects, addictive effects that can be, impact negatively the person, meaning that once they're hooked on it, they cannot get out of it? And how expensive is it?
Okay, I think in reverse order, cannabis can be fairly expensive. None of it is covered by insurance at this point, and hopefully that will change for people. So out of pocket, someone treating for anxiety, it varies of course, but maybe treating for anxiety, So just kind of like a very modest dose of medication every day would be probably in the low 100 area. Cancer patients can spend up to maybe like $500 or $600 to have the symptoms relieved that they're needing to. So it is an expensive out-of-pocket medication.
Is that price per month?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that would be per month. I always break it down to like a beer. Not that, and it has more medicinal benefit from a beer, but when I need to get my mind around it, I just try to break it down like that, because we're so used to paying $5 for our copay, but it actually has a greater cost than that down the line. Your first question to the addictive piece, cannabis itself, the compounds, you do not become chemically addicted to the compounds in cannabis. Within a couple of days, you can also reduce any tolerance increase, but what people do become very connected with is the feeling after consuming cannabis and being addicted to the relief of some of their symptoms. No, chemically, you cannot chemically become addicted to cannabis. You can't overdose. A lot of people would argue the side effects when taking cannabis are typically pretty positive. If you understand your body and you know a little bit how to be open with the patient care advisors, there are certainly strains that you would need to stay away from if you have PTSD or are very sensitive to THC. But no, there are no negative side effects other than perhaps being a little too psychoactively impaired. Any other
Great,
questions?
thank you. Any other questions?
Maria, when somebody applies to the state, typically how long does that process take and how much is it?
So the state application takes, at this point, 4 weeks to process. That's a fairly recent time frame. In the beginning of the year, when everyone was fresh and on their game, it was 4 days. And then when COVID hit, we saw 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and now we're up to 4 weeks. They're on a hiring freeze and have lost a couple of just call center people and processing personnel. So it does take 4 weeks. It's $50. And again, that's only the first step and the less expensive step in the administrative process. Seeing a provider can cost anywhere from $125 to $300. This is where people need to be very careful and, as always, in control of their medical conversations. And if something seems like it's too expensive, it probably is. And you should seek around and take that responsibility to check around, because there are certainly some providers who are just kind of making a little money off of the system at the moment, unfortunately. So that's where some just good advice comes in. And then, as always, trusting your instinct. Good
Thank
question. The registration piece, just add, lasts for 3 years. And then every year you'd have to be requalified by a provider to continue using cannabis.
I have 2 questions, if that's okay. One is, can we get a copy of your slides? They look like they were very good, had a lot of great detail on them. And the second one is, if I'm already licensed by Maryland, I already have my ID card, can you just walk into your store, or is there some registration process for your store as well?
There's not a formal registration process, but a little bit of patient intake and then a whole lot of dialogue with the advisors when you get there. Perhaps you've had that experience, or hopefully you have. If not, you should come here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a little patient intake and making a file, and then you're good to go, because we all speak to the same system that the commission, the Maryland Commission, controls. So we can verify everything very quickly.
Okay, thank you very much, Maria. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'd love to see you.
I have a question about CBD, just for like everyday use. There's so many different products out there on the market that you see literally everywhere. What would you look for like a better quality product?
Well, you have to do a lot of research, and I would want a product only that comes tested by a source hopefully you can trust. Honestly, for human ingestion, I won't take CBD, and I wouldn't give it to my kids or my mom. from the hemp source because it's not tested or regulated. Everything that comes out of a dispensary by Maryland regulation has to be tested by 3 independent facilities. And with any product, you can ask for a certificate of analysis that'll show if metals were present, toxins, vitamin E acetate if you vape, with the recent demonization that went on with vaping. And so you can have some assurance that the products have been tested and only grown in Maryland. Everything has to be started, processed, sold, and consumed in Maryland. Even if you go to a state that's also medically legal, the act of crossing a state line would be a federal offense. So you just know that it's all coming from home and highly regulated.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes. How about driving restrictions? If you are smoking, if you're taking it through your lungs, and you get high, I mean, isn't there? How about driving restrictions?
Yeah. I mean, certainly. It's just like alcohol or opiates. You have to be very honest. I think that's a challenge with a lot of what we do when we're self-medicating or during relaxation time. I think there's a judgment call to be made that's very hard for some people. So absolutely, THC will impair your judgment and response time, and you should not drive with it, as in, that second glass of wine as well. It's the same kind of idea. But with CBD only products, there is no cognitive impairment. And so you don't really feel anything. You just stop feeling so angsty and frustrated. So it's kind of like taking, an antidepressant, and you wait to see like what you're supposed to feel. And then you just realize, oh, I'm just, not so angry.
Thank you.
But yeah, driving, same call like you would make with a couple of beers with coworkers after work.
Maria, you mentioned that at the federal level, it is still illegal, so it's not, it's not allowed to be sold at the federal level. But since you mentioned that there are about 30 states that already provide it, legally, what are the legal implications? I speak as a lawyer right now, but what are the legal implications of, having on one side the states, allowing it, on the other side the federal level not allowing it? Meaning that, for example, concretely, if I advise a friend, I say, you got to go and see Maria. She's great. She knows everything about, cannabis, and she has a great dispensary. And I advise her to go and see you. Is there any legal implication on the federal level, although at the state level, I'm quite fine?
Well, on the state level, if you're within the regulations set forth by the commission, not smoking on public property or in your car, having the allowed allotment to your name only and not diverting any medication to others, then you're legally within your rights in the state of Maryland. We do realize that it's federally illegal. And then when you consider that the funding was taken away a few years ago to enforce it, you have a certain level of wading through the process for legalization. I think we all know that's coming. Before, it was illegal to not farm marijuana because it was such a good source for the country. So, back in Hamilton times, Jefferson had to farm it. So, we're going to get back there. So we're just kind of wading through the process to get there. But yeah, of course, you need to understand that it's federally illegal. We can't bank with federally insured banks, and we all understand that still. So.
All right.
I hope I answered that okay. That was a little clunky. Any other questions?
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much again, Maria.
Thank you.
And
Maria.
if anyone would rather have private conversations, I'm sure Maria is very happy.